Welcome back to making an Appalachian Dulcimer. In the previous episode, I had glued the top onto the back and sides and started working on the binding. My plan for this week is to start on the fretboard and headstock and keep moving closer to the completion of this project. Since I finished carving the top and bottom, the face has quickened considerably. The process would be simpler with a flat top, but I think there's something valuable in experimentation and pushing creative boundaries. Now, let's get started. The first item on the agenda is flattening the fingerboard. The fingerboard is nominally flat since I prepared the wood with the router, but like I showed you with the lip on the top and bottom of the instrument, it's not really flat enough to serve as a gluing surface. Until now, I haven't done anything with the fingerboard aside from cutting these holes in the center. That certainly didn't have a positive impact on the Dulcimer's aesthetics, but cutting these holes is the traditional technique used to enhance the tone and volume of the instrument. To prepare this for gluing, I'm going to sand it the same way I did the sides. It is a little trickier because I have to make sure the Dulcimer stays level, or the fingerboard will slope to one side or the other. I'm going to prepare the fingerboard with thickness sander the same way I did the sides. I didn't want to use cypress for this part because the fretboard is supposed to be hard to stand up to the fingers and strings rubbing on it. This is a piece of live oak that I've been drying, and I'm sure you can see that it has developed a pretty serious warp at one end. This may be pushing it, but I think there's enough material here to make a fretboard. After getting the fretboard sanded, I want to clamp it down on the fingerboard. Unfortunately, I don't have any clamps that are both deep enough and tall enough to reach the middle of the Dulcimer. My solution is to use a piece of tape in combination with a clamp to hold it in place. I'll turn the sticky side out so it won't pull any of the wood fibers, put the clamp on it to hold the tape down. That way, pressure is distributed over the entire fretboard. I've got a couple more of these, so I'll put them on and see you again when this is dry. Now that the fretboard has been cut, it's time to cut the frets. Now I'm not really ready to install the fret wire yet, but I do want to get these done. I've marked them all out, and I find that this mini hacksaw is just about the perfect size for the frets to sit in. If you already have a dulcimer, you can copy a fret pattern, and there are formulas out there you can use, but for this project, I'm going to use StewMac's fret calculator. If you go to your browser and search for stewmac.com/fret-calculator, they have a really great tool that's free to use and is customizable for a range of instruments. Ordinarily, a dulcimer has 19 frets, but I'm going to make this one with 22, and it has a string length of 27 inches. I would like to make it a little bit longer, but with the way it's laid out, that's as big as I can get. Putting binding on the fretboard really isn't necessary, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it gives the dulcimer a more finished appearance. I realized you might not have gotten to see me gluing the binding onto the sides, so here's a better look, but there really isn't anything to it. With the fretboard in place and the frets cut, it's time to move on to the headstock. First, I'm going to cut the notch where the headstock will sit. I measured this angle from a guitar, and it's 15 degrees. I am going to make the headstock out of cypress to tie it together with the rest of the instrument. The headstock is the part of the instrument that holds the tuning keys, which tension the strings. One really important piece of the dulcimer is called the nut. This is a piece of wood or bone that sits between the headstock and the fingerboard. It is important because it is one of the two functional endpoints that determine how long your strings are. It also keeps the distance between the strings fixed so they aren't able to move around. Some dulcimer makers will actually make a sort of second nut out of a piece of fret wire so the strings sit directly on top of it. This minimizes the distance between the strings and the fingerboard and makes the instrument easier to play. I believe this is the last thing I'm going to get to today, but I want to at least get started on it. I'm going to shape the block underneath the headstock and get it rounded off. In a guitar or another stringed instrument, this would be called the neck, although I'm not sure if this counts. I left it square until now so I could use a clamp when I glue the headstock on, but I don't need it anymore. I'll have to clean this up some more later, but that's it for this week. Thank you for watching. I'm almost done with this project, so if you enjoyed the video, stay tuned for next time and I'll get this project finished.